Today, I'm honored to be joined by two original founding members of Heart, the Hall of Famers, Mike Derosier on drums, Steve Fossen on bass. Thank you so much for taking some time to sit down with us today.
Thank you.
You guys been doing Heart by Heart for a long time now. 2014, I guess, is about when you started doing this
Actually,
stuff.
it was more like 2012.
2012, so it's a decade. Wow.
2012, geez.
Oh, time passes too fast.
It does.
A lot of people innocently say, why bother? Why go out on the road? What tears inside you that says, hey, we got to go out and play?
It's just, I don't know, I just feel the need to play, and it's fun, and my wife is the singer, so we get to...
She makes him.
Yeah, she makes me do it, and then we get to argue at home and on the road, so it's a lot of fun.
Oh, how pleasant. So she wants to sing, so you're creating the vehicle for Summer to sing. Is that what you're doing?
Well, she's been singing her whole life, but yeah.
It's nice, and she does a really great job. You guys do a really fantastic job. One of the things that's really great about Heart by Heart is that it's a real honor of the band. You guys are very good at wanting to recreate the songs the way they really were intended. So
Yes.
Talk about the philosophy.
It's just the whole kind of reminiscing thing. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of respect for those songs. I think people go away unsatisfied if you play the song and you mess with the arrangement somehow. I do. I mean, if I go see a band and they mess with the arrangement, it feels weird to me. I'm so used to it being a certain thing, so that's what we do.
So you wouldn't be a big fan of Led Zeppelin then, live?
Yeah, without John Bonham, I don't know how to do anything anyway.
The thing of it is about Zeppelin, though, they stuck to the song, but then they branched out.
Yeah.
And so they would like stretch out the lead parts or stretch out, whatever. But the body of the song was like you remember it on the record.
Yeah, okay, so you're okay with that, all right. Because I know they're very famous for going off on improvs.
Well, I've had some people, I won't mention any names, but they saw a very important big artist who had a different drummer than what he had back in the day. And their new drummer didn't bother playing the same licks that were signature licks in the song. And people, like especially drummers, would go, oh, what happened?
Where is that?
Yeah, where is it?
Well,
Yeah,
I got
plays
to-
dashboard drums. If it's not the same thing that they used to play on their dashboard, it messes them up.
I agree, Mike. So I'm a drummer. I've been playing drums all my life. So early on in my life, I was a big Heart fan. I used to follow and learn every little bit, as you're talking about.
Yeah.
Steve, you're right. And every time it comes on the radio, I'm there doing a little riff in the film. When I see you guys do it live, I notice that you continue to do all that. That's great.
I stretch a little bit sometimes, but there's things that I've decided I'm going to do just like I did them. And there's other little moments where I've got to stretch a little because, I mean, after a while, it just kind of becomes you're so removed from it.
You're a big fan of the Beatles. I know you've said that, right? You guys have seen the Get Back special, the documentary?
I have, yeah.
So there was a lot of direction, may I say, that Paul gives to Ringo for one of the songs. Very specific, he's talking about. How did that work with you and the band? Did they just say play, or did they come in and direct you? How did that work?
God, rarely. I think the first song that I ever did with these guys on the first on Dreamboat Annie was a moment where Roger Fisher suggested that I played something a little less stock. He said, yeah, just because I guess the song, he wanted something that was a little wacky just for a second. And it struck me as, so you don't want to do-gu-do-gu-do-gu-do-gu-do, the straight 16ths or 8ths or whatever it was. And I did a simple but unusual kind of semi-unusual thing. Yeah, and he thought that was and from there I would try to do that tastefully on different songs. Sometimes I did simple things because they do work. They're there and they've been done a million times because guys do them and they work for the song. So you have to be smart about when you do that kind of stuff and when you kind of go off. And it took me a while to kind of understand that.
So how long were you guys on the road together before you went into Dreamboat Annie with you? At all, if at all?
I was the new guy on the block.
Yeah.
So he was brought in the
Yeah,
session.
the first thing that we did together was actually record a couple songs for Dreamboat Annie. And during that time, we also rehearsed up the set that we did live. And back in those days, we were still playing clubs. And so we had to do 4 hours worth of material, or 4 sets worth of material. So we had to do, some standard rock songs, a lot of covers, and then we did one set was strictly Dreamboat Annie.
So how long were you touring with Dreamboat Annie before you went into the studio?
Well, Dreamboat Annie was released in Canada in the summer of '75, in the summer or fall of '75. So summer or fall '75, we were honing our live portion of, concerning Dreamboat Annie.
Still doing clubs.
And we were
It's really amazing. You talk about these little clubs you guys used to do, and then, 2 years later.
Well,
it was very fast.
So we'd play clubs for a couple weeks in a row, and clubs back then, you'd pull in on a Monday night and you'd leave on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Not like today. And sometimes even 2 weeks in a row at the same place. But we'd do clubs for a while, and then we'd get a call, oh, the Bee Gees want you to open up for them in British Columbia. Okay, no problem, we'll go open up for the Bee Gees. And the thing that struck me about opening up for the Bee Gees is that we'd do our set, and then we'd be cleared off. You guys go over there, you can't get anywhere near the stage. The Bee Gees would pull up in their limo at the stairs leading up to the stage. They'd get out, do their set, go right back down the stairs, get in the limo, and leave. We didn't even get close to them at all.
Is that true with a lot of bands that you open for?
No.
They were nice.
I mean, the Who, when we opened up for the Who in, I think it was Toronto, we were all excited. And then we all got on stage, and we were going to see the Who run on stage. And then just before they came on, Pete looked out there, and then there was a little discussion. They said, okay, so they wiped us off the stage, and they filled it up with chicks, with...
When you're the Who, I guess you get to do that, yes.
Some people are like that. They just they don't want to interact. They just want to come in, do the thing, and go. Other people, there was I can't remember where it was. We did a few, didn't we play with the Stones a few times, doing different things? And I'm just getting dressed behind one of our cases, and Mick Jagger's standing over there. Somebody had brought him in. He wanted to meet the band, and I'm putting my pants on.
Great moment for meeting one of the legends of rock and roll. I've got a show I want to ask you about. Do you guys remember playing in Central Park in New York in '77?
Yeah.
That was the first show I saw you guys at.
Oh, really? You were there?
Yeah, I was there. So I got some nice shots. Although that stage was really high, I couldn't really see you, and you were on the other side of the stage. So I wound up getting more shots of Ann and Roger, actually. But that was a great show. And do you know there's a recording of that show?
There is.
I'd love to hear it.
Really? I'll send you a link. You guys were good. Good band. Sounded great.
Well, see, that's what happens when you play 2 weeks in the same place. You work on, the first night, it's like you're kind of going, well, I don't know if I like the sound of this, and then you hone it down over the weekend. By the time you got to Friday and Saturday night, you had everything down pat. And we were fairly popular at the time, so we always had a great crowd. And so you want to do your best, and we'd all, work at it and did our best.
I was wondering, you did a lot of covers, and you did some hard covers, like Siberian Khatru. How did that come about? Who decided what was in the set and said, hey, wait a minute, that's not really what I want to do, or it's a challenge and you did want to go do it?
Yeah, it was a challenge, yeah. And they were popular bands that we liked. And, back in those days, it was album-oriented on the radio stations all the time. So people were familiar with all the cuts on most of the albums. So I have an interesting story about the Central Park thing.
Oh, yeah, please.
So after the show, they throw us in a limo. So the whole band's in the same limo, right? And as soon as we get in the limo and get the doors closed, fans just...
The Beatles.
It was a crush around the limo, and they were pounding on the top and pounding on the windows and everything. I love you guys. And so he starts to leave, slowly, and we're stuck in the mud. So we sat there for a while till they got it figured out. And they were pounding on the car, jumping on the car.
But you weren't scared, were you?
Yeah, we were scared.
Oh my God.
You never know if somebody gets into the car and start dragging people out of the car. They might, not on purpose would they want to hurt you, but just you know, in a crush of people, you don't know what's going to happen. So anyway,
But you got out safe and sound eventually.
No,
Yeah.
we all went to the hospital after that.
Well, he didn't. They held him captive for a few days.
You guys were at the California Jam, you know, amazing amount of people. Was it overwhelming, hard to do, hard to comprehend? What were your reactions to that?
We had done some pretty big, like stadium kind of shows, so kind of used to that. There's a certain amount of people that you can see, and then beyond that, it just looks like a texture, like this light here. It's just a texture in the distance. So you don't even really. I mean, it is amazing to see, but you don't feel like you're playing to all those people. You're just playing to the people you can kind of see and see their faces and stuff.
Yeah, and something that our road manager, Dick Adams, told me right in the beginning, which I kind of knew anyway, but he said, hey, just remember, you're playing to one person at a time. You want to make that person love you. If that person loves you, then everyone's going to love you. Also, I mean, we had done the half shell in Boston for 250,000 people. We did Enoshima Beach that was a lot of people too.
Yeah.
And then we did Cal Jam, which was...
You have a very basic setup on your drum set. You're not like Rushman, Neil Peart, with all these things. So what drove you to having that setup?
Well, the first drum set I had was just it was a Sonar set, and it was just a mounted tom and a floor tom, and just like a swing drummer, small combo kind of a set. And all the guys that I like, Krupa mostly, and Buddy Rich and Sonny Payne, those guys, very straightforward, simple setup. And then I see guys like Bonham and having a great sound, doing a lot of stuff with a simple set. And I get confused, I get confused if there's like 4 or 5 toms. What's the point? Especially in a big room, you hit this tom and then they hit this tom, the one next to it. And in a big room, it's very hard to tell, unless they're by themselves, playing a song unless they're featured in some way.
Right, when you're going down, you can hear it. But if you're just hitting this one or decide to hit this one, it makes no difference.
Not much difference. So
interesting. So which bass did you bring on tour this time? I know you have a
59P.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's your original one, right? That you bought.
Well, it looks just like the original
Oh
one.
no, it's a different one. You probably keep that one at home and don't take it out.
It's somewhere. It's very safe though.
Okay, all right. I don't have to know. But you have a similar type of precision that you're playing with now.
Yeah.
And your amps have changed over years, or you keep the same ones?
Well, back in the day, I played Fender amps, but like I said, when we played clubs, it was a totally different theory on getting the bass out to the audience. I was on my own. You didn't put any bass in the PA at all, so I had to fill up the whole room from the stage. I think I had 4 15s and 8 12s on stage with 3 different Fender amps.
Because that's all you had, baby.
But
now you have to worry about it, right? Now you
but nowadays, back in the year 2000, I switched to Ampeg, and I'm a total Ampeg guy now. SVT, all tube head with, either 2, 4, or 8 10s.
Nice. But you don't need to fill the room anymore, so.
No, I just need to hear it myself and him at the same time.
Well, you guys
As long as I can hear
backbone
him
of the band, right?
and I can hear myself, like
You're okay.
I look at his right foot.
Well, that's the
I
way
do
you
the
do
same
it.
thing.
You know by how he moves. You know
what's
where
it
he is in the
supposed to be
song, right? You don't necessarily have to hear the other parts. That's
Man, that's such a, the whole monitor. I went through all these different levels of having different cabinets and amounts of power. I had my own small PA system behind me for a while because I wanted to have total control of what I was hearing. And it just got silly. And then you start depending, it turns into wearing your lucky socks kind of a deal. Or I've got to have my B-pollen, or I've got to have my shot of Jack Daniels. I got to have my monitor system being perfect. It'll mess me up if it doesn't sound right. And then I just overreacted, and I kind of went to nothing because I got so tired of.
Do you guys do the inner ear?
No.
No? Really?
Well, the Two
I don't
guitar
know.
players do, Lizzie and
Okay.
Chad, they do. And Summer, she uses
Somebody
one
does,
ear.
so she can hear herself, right? Yeah,
She uses one ear, and then she has floor monitors
Oh, really?
also.
Okay.
But Mike and
That's
I,
nice.
we're old school, and we're rock. I keep
Don't
telling
worry
them,
too
hey,
much about the monitors. Yeah,
we're a rock band. We still practice in a garage.
Oh, how sweet.
So we're still a garage band, but and then in the garage is where you hear what it really sounds like. The guitars, the bass, and the drums are all geared towards each other, and the loudness and volume of all that stuff matches in the room, and that's what we try to do on stage too.
That's nice. You guys are Rock and Roll Hall of Famers. When you guys played, it sounded like you guys had never left the stage together. How did it feel together when you guys were on stage playing Crazy on You?
You know what? I think I hear my mom calling me.
Uh-oh. I know there was some drama that occurred before that, but on stage you guys were great.
Well, it was, in some ways, it was surreal. It just had that, like you said, kind of had that, I was just here yesterday kind of a thing. It had been decades that had gone by. But there was some tension and weird.
So I know you guys didn't get to play Barracuda, and that was where the tension probably came, right? And wanted her guys.
Well, yeah, that was part of it.
Yeah, because Mike is a co-writer of Barracuda.
Right.
And Roger is a co-writer of Barracuda. And they didn't allow us to, and we, Howard and I recorded Barracuda and mixed it and toured behind it for years, and so it was kind of weird.
I still have a ton of respect for Ann and Nancy. I think they're great, as far as Ann, I think, is one of the best there is, but, there's just been some, through the years, and it just kind of was kind of more and more harder and harder to.
I'll tell you this, we went to a rehearsal room the day before we did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you could have recorded the very first time we played Crazy on You together. It was great. And then we did it like 2 more times. We said, what are we doing? Let's get wasting our time. Let's get out of here.
You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys obviously were very skilled musicians, and it's really fun to see how that.
Well, it's like riding a bike. We just said, oh, no. Before 2013, well, say after, the 90s to 2013, it was really like, and here's Ann and Nancy Wilson. Then they'd play straight on. You go like, oh, wait a minute, that's not Ann and Nancy Wilson, that's Hart. But then when we got inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, then they went back to saying Hart more. And then that really helped Mike and I get it, people took notice. Oh, they actually gave you guys credit for some stuff, so, because Ann and Nancy barely did. So the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame honored us, and so everyone else said, oh, well, because, there's been 30 or so different musicians that have come and gone out of Hart in the meantime since Mike and I left. And they didn't put any of those guys in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's just, the band from the 70s.
Again, from a naive point of view, I'm not really sure why the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame organization would have allowed the incarnation that played Barracuda to even be on stage. I don't really understand it. We're inducting new guys. We want you. But instead, they let that happen.
I don't know.
I agree with you.
The goings on behind the scenes, kind of, I don't.
But
I
I'll tell you
know.
this. So when we played, Jan Wenner happened to be sitting right, and I could see him the whole time, and he was just smiling so happy when we were playing Crazy on You. And then you were backstage with Dave and Taylor, right? Mm-hmm. Dave goes, when they started Barracuda, Dave goes, it's slow.
Dave Grohl.
Right, it's
It's
just
slow.
Yeah.
It's slow.
Yeah.
And then it got slower as they played it, as the song went on.
You can see it's riddled with comments on YouTube. They said they're very critical of that version that was done. You guys would have done better.
Of course we would have. You should hear it tonight.
I'm sure it's going to be great.
Oh, man.
Well, I appreciate you giving me some insight into that. I know it's not easy necessarily, but the honor of being inducted into the Hall of Fame must be just tremendous. One of the things that I reflect on a lot is that there's not a time that you can get on a classic rock radio station and listen for a couple hours and not hear Magic Man, Crazy on You, or Barracuda. And it's 50 years almost now, 50 years since you started the band. So
Straight on.
And straight on. Yeah, you hear that often too.
Yeah.
It must be wonderful to think, okay, 50 years ago, people are still playing our songs. you know 50 years from now they're still going to be doing that, right?
Oh yeah, and any given time on planet Earth, someone's listening to Heart.
Obviously, you guys were part of the band. Roger left, Michael left, and then you guys went on. But eventually, you were asked to leave the band. And I'm not really sure how that works. In other words, was it just a straight vote, or did somebody get more votes than other people? Did you want to stay? How did that work?
Well, it's definitely a vote. And the way things worked out, we had less votes than we needed.
I know you guys weren't, I've seen other interviews where you weren't necessarily happy with the way the musical direction of the band was going anyway. Was that really part of, you were okay with partying with the band at that time?
It was kind of a relief in some ways.
Yeah, the last record for me was and it wasn't just me. I think everybody in our kind of inner circle felt the same way. If they would have been honest about it, they would have maybe expressed the thinking that a lot of the material wasn't right for the record, or the record wasn't ready, or material wasn't ready, that kind of a thing. And I agreed with it. I think there's some good stuff on it, but every time you sort of have this, I think you feel like we want to take people with us, we want to explore, and we want to take them with us and really be proud of, I felt like it was just kind of going backwards as far as a lot of the songs. So, and we spent a ton of dough on it. It seemed like almost everything we did was sort of the wrong move. The other records we did cheaply, not because we were like, hey, let's make sure we're protecting our dough. It was just that it was convenient, and it was sounding good. We had good people doing stuff with us, and so for some reason, just the last record, we spent a bunch of money. We got big highfalutin people to work with us. The studio was
it was Capitol
expensive.
Studio in Los Angeles, so we all had to relocate for the album cutting. And so everything was expensive.
Yeah.
And then Ann and Nancy had to have their dogs with them, so they had to get a private jet to fly them and their canines back and forth.
Kind of that stuff.
Are there things on the tour that people should be looking for that you're doing now?
They should be looking for the correct arrangement and the correct key and the right parts, so that they can relive that nostalgia that they experienced when they were first discovering Heart. We get, statements from Sound Exchange and Sony and Capitol and stuff, and we can tell which songs sell the most and get streamed the most and downloaded the most. And so we go through we play that one, we play that one. Oh, maybe we should learn this one,
Oh, that's interesting. So you're dynamically changing your set to make sure you meet what the audience is
Well,
doing.
it's pretty much always the same. But we do some deeper cuts, and Mistral Wind is one of them. And,
Great song.
Which happens to be one of Mike's favorite songs to play. And Mike also has a fantastic dramatic drum part in that. So
That's a great song. Roger talked about the fact that you guys were on the road. You didn't get to play around a lot because you were out on the road a lot. So you guys would steal time after you do the sound check, you'd continue to play. So talk about those times. Were you guys just fooling around? Were you just having fun?
Yeah, as soon as the crew got our stuff set up, we'd usually get down there and I'd just horse around just to warm up anyway. And sometimes Raj would play something, or I'd play. The guy'd say, hey, play something steady, because I'd be shredding, and the sound guy yell at me to simplify and play something steady so I can. So we would play some things occasionally, and we just I don't know how the seed for it started, but we ended up putting a piece of it on Mike Fisher did, or I did, I can't remember. Probably both of us, because I used to record stuff with my little.
So you fortunately had a recorder there.
Yeah.
So that was recorded, and eventually that was given to Ann, I guess, who combined that with her.
Yeah, and Nancy did tons to it. But yeah, the whole band arranged it, and it was really one of those things. It was a band effort to put it all together, and we just sort of knew. I think we sort of felt like it was going to be a good one.
That alien attack sound that Roger got off of the feedback on his thing. There was a time where you guys in Heart by Heart, I think, tried to recreate that on stage with a keyboard. Is that right?
Yeah. At the time, we had a keyboard player who's actually going to be here tonight, Bob Rivers. I don't know if you did.
I don't know Bob, no.
Yeah, he was a very famous radio guy on the East Coast and the West Coast. And he was our keyboard player for a while, and he emulated that.
That's cool that you guys did that. Talking about going back to making sure you're making accurate reproductions. And that whole song is very good. It's one of those things that Rick Beato should do a breakdown of it. What makes this song great? Because it's got a lot going on. It's not as simple as it may seem. And part is your driving drums. People always equate that to a Bonham type sound, and I think it is. I think you do a really great driving beat on that.
Yeah,
it's a cool
and
song.
Mike, his right foot is a little more talented than most drummers' right foot.
It's a foot, yes. Yeah, you don't double bass. You don't have a second. No. You do it all with the right.
No, I tell this story, and I keep trying to flash back on it. Part of the problem was trying to get a big bass drum to have enough punch for Mike Flicker, and I think I did most of that record, if not all of it, with no hole in the bass drum, and so he was constantly. Is there any way you can get more of this and more punch out of the bass drum? So I was trying different pedals. I made a couple of beaters. I made one beater that had a felt, because I had a gong, I had a felt mallet, a big, and I put that on I whittled down a wood beater that I had and put that on top of it and put a wood screw on it. And I'm thinking that I recorded the song with that.
Wasn't that too heavy to push?
Well, I had to crank the spring, the tension way up on it to get it to come back fast enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been really weird.
It was, but
it worked.
Well,
Flicker was happy.
Flicker was happy with it, yeah. Okay. I used one of them that I made. One of them I dipped in resin, boat resin.
To make it hard?
Yeah, to make it hard and to weigh more. It was and it kind of worked too.
And you didn't break the drum. The head.
Well, yeah, make it through the 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
That's right. Yeah. But on the road, you didn't use your big woolly thing, did you?
It was a lot of work to move that thing.
You had mentioned this before, and I didn't get a chance to follow up until now, but you talked about this is a great sound, I like doing it too, when you hit the snare drum, you hit the rim and the snare at the same time. You must whittle the stick apart by the end of the night, right?
Yeah, those eventually, but there's oak. You can get these oak sticks now. I don't know if you've
not
checked
oak,
those.
no, usually ash or something.
Oh, these they are
Hickory.
tough.
Hickory, yeah, that's it, yeah. But so you have some oak ones that don't fray apart.
Even the cymbals won't chew them up as
really?
fast. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's how because I always hit the cymbal with this.
Yeah.
It's always what I used to do. In the middle of whatever I was doing,
Yeah, and then you get wood chips
everywhere, right? All of a sudden, then you're hitting then you go around the drums and you're hitting with this thing that's stabbed your. Oh my God, what did I just do? Throw it away. Do you lose a lot of sticks during the night? Do you wind up changing a lot?
No, I don't. I haven't broken a head or busted a stick for a long time.
Really?
I don't know why. Maybe it's.
You don't twirl your sticks around and throw them in the air and all that stuff.
Occasionally, I do. I flip them. Okay. I don't twirl. I flip them, but I do it occasionally. Yeah, mostly.
Mostly. That's where you'd have to get
more than 50% of the time.
Okay.
That's with my bass.
There you go. You flick your bass around like that. That's good. It's a pretty easy thing to do. I saw Don Felder a couple weeks ago, and it was great, by the way. And I really didn't know much about the Eagles. We all know their songs clearly, but I was never a really big fan. But after I saw him, I started.
Big Lebowski.
Yeah, there you go. I started, doing a little bit of search, and of course, Don has this great book, and I said, well, I don't have time to read the book. What do people say about it? And he talked about this idea that the Eagles had this corporation that he was a part of, and that he was the CFO, and he said, hey, where's all our money going, right? And when they found out he was asking one of these questions, that's when he got tossed from the band. Well, he got fired from the band, I guess. He was still part of the corporation, which is where that whole suit came from. So when you guys formed Heart, did you have a corporation like that too, where you guys had shares? Is that the way that worked? Mm-hmm. So today, when well, I think you mentioned it before with so when royalties come in from album sales, stuff like that, that all goes flowing through the corporation to you guys, and there's like annual reports.
Well, in theory, yeah.
In theory.
Well, there's more than one source too. So some would go through that. Some would just eventually we just get it direct.
Really?
Yeah. So what we've done over the past
Aren't I right about that?
8 months or so.
He usually tells me how.
So it's
8 months or so is they have wanted to cut out the expense of the accountants.
Okay. The
which is quite, it's a big expense, which we've had since day one. And so over the course of these 8 months, trying to figure out how to get our own sound exchange account, our own Sony account, our own Capitol account, Universal, whatever it is, it's a lot of work, and things have to be done a certain way, and it takes a long time to do it. So we're sitting here going like, because if we would have had the accountants do it, the accountants would have had checks out already, just, but we're kind of in limbo right now.
So do you get they are required to give you reports about album plays, Spotify, all that kind of stuff?
Sure.
Is that what happens? So you can check up on them to make sure.
Every country, yeah, big stacks of paper.
How often? Paper.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How often do they publish those things?
It's every 3 months or something.
The two record companies, Universal and Sony, are 6 months, but they're staggered. One's December and June, and one's March and September, whatever. And then Sound Exchange is every 3 months, or if you get direct deposit, it's every month.
I like hard copies. I like
old school still.
Yeah, that's right.
So you get to see. Did they only show you your stuff, or do they show you like what's going on everywhere and you see everything?
Everything.
That's interesting. So
you can extrapolate everything out too from, okay, if I got this and my percentage is that, then somebody else got this and their percentage is that.
Okay. Yes, that's good. But so even though you were exited from the band, you're part of the corporation, and you still.
We're still part of the Heart General Partnership. Yeah.
General Partnership. Okay.
I'm surprised at how much downloads and streaming we get.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really heartwarming.
After all these, isn't Dreamboat Annie like 50 years or 45 years or something?
48 years, something like that?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's a weird business, it really is. It's been great.
And
great.
we
Well,
have
it sustains you guys, right?
I've had kids come up to me and say, "Hey, you got any advice?" And I say, "Well,
Right.
it's because every single day the parameters change of what's going to help you get noticed or whatever. Every single day it changes."
In the studio, do people normally bring songs in, or were there some things created on the fly?
What?
I would say a lot of things were brought in and showed to us, and then we went, okay, and then a lot of times we'd have to rock it up. Like the demo of Magic Man was just the acoustic guitar and singing, and so we tried to make it, Well, the thing of it is, even when a good songwriter presents a song, the musicians unless he tells you exactly what to play for every second of that song, you're coming up with what you feel inside. And that, it matters. And, okay, here's a song. Okay, the beat goes on. Carol Kay comes up with dun 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 dun. Any writing credit? No. And that's the song.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good
She's
example.
amazing musician.
And that's perfect example of a musician contributing to the song and the songwriter going. And another example is Led Zeppelin. I mean, obviously Page and Plant wrote, the body of the song, but they gave writing credits to Bonham and John Paul Jones a lot of the times because they contributed these parts that you go, all right, way to go, guys.
The days of Tin Pan Alley are gone. That was easy to define who did what. Playing rock music it's not easy to define or tell exactly who a songwriter is versus just being a guy in the band doing part of the arrangement. It's very foggy, and so you have to kind of watch out for yourself a little bit.
Oh, but that's true.
Yeah.
Roger talked about this with Crazy on You. I guess Howard was the one who stepped up and said, hey, that little riff that he does in the beginning is worthy of a writing credit.
Actually, he just did it at the end. And then he said, hey, let's do that right at the beginning. Right.
Elaborate on this. What do you mean? You mean he was only at the very end of the song that he did
at the end of the song, during one of the demos or takes, or he did da 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 da. And then everyone, oh, what was that? So then he said, well, let's start the song with that and continue it through, develop it through the whole song.
I didn't know that. It's kind of nice where I guess it's a nice collaborative effort, right? People come with a song and people are willing to listen to the band and come together, and I think that makes a better, overall atmosphere probably with everybody. That's having not really been in a band like that, I don't know if I can personally say anything about that dynamic. You guys are in a perfect position for that because, Ann and Nancy wrote a lot of stuff. They were very good. But there's no doubt that a lot of people consider, the rest of the band as helping form that sound. You just said rock it up, right? Mm-hmm. We all know that, without you guys, those songs, they wouldn't have had the impact that they did.
When we first met Ann, she was basically a folk musician. And which is fine. Folk music's great. And she was great at it, but we kind of encouraged her, well, your voice, you got a good voice, maybe you should try a little plant, see if you can come up with something.
She was reluctant to do the Zeppelin? You had to sort of talk her into it?
Yeah.
She's very good at it. Yeah. To the point where she actually sang for their induction at the Kennedy Center, right? Mm-hmm. How much did the producer, Flicker...
Well, at first, in Dreamboat Annie, Flicker was like the almighty poobah, I mean, he was, everything went through him. He knew every note, every part on the whole album, so he had totally planned out everything that was going to happen. But as time went on, he trusted everyone more, so he could just concentrate on what he was best at, which, in my opinion, he got fantastic acoustic guitar sounds and vocal sounds and bass sounds too, and guitar sounds.
So did he influence the way
this? Well, was that for my benefit?
Well, I think Mike had a totally different theory and want for drums than you especially, but I think the rest of us wanted a little heavier in the drum department too, but
Oh, that wasn't they weren't miking you the way you wanted?
Well, Mike Flicker, he had a style, a system and a style out of his studio, and I think he sort of applied that to what he did with the band. When I first came into it, Mike sort of approached drum sounds the same on every song, and that didn't make sense to me. But I was the new guy, so I just went along with stuff. And like Steve was saying, I think Mike and I kind of merged our ideas about things as time went by. Because I felt like, God, if I have that Dreamboat Annie drum sound on Barracuda, that's not going to work. And so we had to. But he ended up being a lot more flexible. So. And I think it really paid off.
And in translating that to a live performance, are the drums mic'd any different? Do you match it? What do you do?
Well, I've always kind of felt like to play the way that I like to play. I like to have stuff be open, like an old big band kind of a drummer.
Right, the Gene Krupa stuff. Right?
That's the way I grew up, and I don't like a lot of padding and
that dead sound,
tape and all that stuff. Yeah. And so live, I sort of did things kind of more the way I like to have them set up. So it's been a constant, almost constant thing through the decades, working with sound guys, because they like the hole, they like the pillow, they like the little gummy bears on the snare and all that stuff. They like all that. People playing a snare drum, they don't have their ear right next to it. The drums have got to breathe a little bit. And that's
a drum kit. You want it to sound like itself, not this is this totally separate thing over here, and the tom is a totally separate thing
Sometimes
over
they
here.
put mics on every drum. Sometimes they have the overheads, right? So I don't know what you do.
Yeah, well, that's the way most guys do it. They set, and this is another problem. They set mics up for the same every drummer the same way, which is kind of silly because guitar players don't have the same EQ on their guitars. They're wearing a different guitar, so they don't go and fiddle around with their very often, maybe occasionally, but for some reason drummers get messed with. I don't know if you've encountered it.
No, but I understand and I can appreciate your perspective. It's funny.
And the modern drum sound that, I don't know why people do this, but they make the kick drum totally just low-endy and loud.
Yeah.
And then a cracky, not even cracky, but just a thud snare. And that's basically what you hear, the snare and the bass drum. That's it. One thing we try to tell our sound guys, and we have a really good sound guy at home, Alex Raphael, and he understands that we want to take the sound and have the soundscape be like bands from the 70s and 80s instead of the modern bands.
Well, there's more character, I think, in the individual sound and style character and all that. That's just it's baffling to me that they want to set every guy up the same way because you don't play the same way. The way that I hit versus the way that you hit, it's not better. It's just going to be different. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, I get the impression you probably hit pretty hard, but everybody hits that way, right?
Well, not all night. There's certain things that I play lightly. There's certain things that I play head and hoop at the same time.
Yeah, you get that nice snap.
Yeah.
If you hit a drum too hard, it cancels itself out in a way. The head is going, ooh, But if you hit it just right, it goes boing. And the same with the bass string.
Oh,
if you hit it too hard, it cancels itself out. But if you hit it just right, it goes boing. And
You prefer using your fingers or a pick then?
Pick. Okay. I'm a pick guy. But I can play with my fingers. I have in the past. But in fact, I played with my fingers on a few songs that you'll hear tonight. But
we'll look for that. Well, gentlemen, you've been so gracious. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Hey, thank you.
I've really enjoyed hearing a lot about you guys, your philosophies of stuff, and appreciate you letting me go into some areas that may have been a little sensitive, but I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for actually, investigating and having some knowledge of our past, which that makes a little that helps us open up when you actually know what's going on.
But I really appreciate you guys. I know it's a lot of work. You guys did a lot of travel. I don't know if you're tired today, but hopefully you'll be all rested up and get ready to go.
I will be fine.
Yeah. Thank you, Elliot.
You're very, very welcome. Thanks for your time again. It's such a pleasure.